Okay, Alan and James here. Hey, James. We are working through some concepts in the area of win-loss analysis and qualitative research. And one of the questions we're asked all the time is, how many data points is enough data points? How many interviews is enough to be statistically significant or meaningful, or to get to the point where I could rely on that number, or I could rely on the themes? And how many times, and if I'm only talking to, let's say, 5 people, am I just collecting anecdotes, or am I actually developing data? So there's actually some good thinking on this, and I'm going to publish a slide. We have a good slide on that. I'm not sure if I have it right in front of me. I do. I have it right here, so I'll share that in a second. Let me just get that up. Can you cut this part of the video out?
Yeah.
You can cut it, okay. Nice. I'm just gonna go. Okay. Okay, so we'll share that slide in a second. So I have a slide about this, and we can talk through it a little bit, but I want to talk about our experience with choosing the size of a study. So there's some good research that says that, essentially, I'll net it out for you, between 20 and 30 conversations will give you enough of the themes that are present in a larger population. And so having 100 conversations is probably going to be very redundant. So what we find is that I think the qualitative research term here is saturation. So what we find is that as we conduct, we do win-loss projects for people. We do it in all sorts of different ways, and we're pulling together these ideas and giving out these ideas so that you can run these kinds of projects internally, or hire us if that's your desire. But fundamentally, a win-loss buyer intelligence project needs to consist of between 20 and 30 conversations in order to have some amount of clarity of what matters in the larger group. Now, there are lots of situations where that's not possible. We might only have 5 deals to analyze and only get 2 of them on the phone. That's fine, work with what we can. But if we're working in a transactional business, often we'll have more people than that to talk to. And if we only have 5 deals to work with, we probably need to be going out and doing more customer development anyway. So what happens is that, I don't know if my diagram is going to work here. Here's our universe of people. This is our let's call this our total addressable market, or our market segment that we are talking about. I'm not going to call it TAM. I'm just going to stick with market segment. So when we're talking within a certain market segment, we need to know certain things. What matters to them? So we want to know the buyer personas. We want to know the problems they have, or the goals that they have, or as we call them, the F deltas that they have. We want to know about the competitive forces. We want to know a whole bunch of things about the problem space, about the market segment. So as we start conducting interviews, we find that there's sort of a tipping point when we're talking to a population of people. So in the first, the first few interviews are all new. And it's so tempting at the beginning of a study to think that we know the answer. And I call that foreclosing. We foreclose on the outcome by talking to 3 people, and they maybe all said similar things, and we say, okay, enough of that. But the fact is that those 3 people that we talked to might all be sort of over here in the cluster. And we just so happened that we trained our lens, or the first 3 people that responded were in this small little segment. They're all talking about the same thing. And really, what we need to do is understand the points of view of all of the people in the entire market segment and understand what are the themes for all of them. So what's really interesting with this work is that when we do 3, you know, we might have talked to this one, that one, and that one, and they'll be saying completely different things. But as our sample size approaches 20 or 30, 30 is like, I think, the gold-plated number. If you really have like time and money to invest, talking to 30 people is awesome. But I think the smart person's number is 20 conversations, because we find that at about 12 to 15 conversations, we're starting to recognize patterns. You know, it's sort of like a Rorschach test, you know. They ink blots on the wall, right? Ink blots on the wall, and different people will name them as different things. Or the other analogy I use is sort of like Plato's idea of shadows being projected. We're in the cave and we have shadows being projected. Well, those shadows are not clear enough when we've only talked to 8 people. Once we get to 12 to 15 people, we can start to describe the shapes that we're seeing on the wall, right? They start to get clearer. And it's really at sort of 12 to 15 conversations that the shapes start to reveal themselves. And it's between that 12 to 20 number where they start to become really clear. Now, if you go to 30, you have 30 conversations, it's like you'll get just that much more clarity on the pictures, and that's always often a good idea. But a lot of people want to get a project done, you know, within a certain kind of budget and time frame, and so 20s is sort of, as I said, a sort of smart investment. So that's really what you want to do is get clear definition around the shapes of the personas, problems, goals, F delta, competitive intelligence. What are the decision factors, the things that matter the most to the buyers that are out there? Once you've had 20 conversations, or as I said, ideally 30, the shapes become really clear. And so then you've moved beyond anecdotes and into data. This is now data and evidence. And then the next step is if you're able to test those themes. So then you take those clearly defined shapes and you test them using a quantitative survey, which is much more, do you like this shape or do you like that shape? Or does this shape look like a car or an SUV to you? And then that person would name that. That's when you say, okay, if I test that against 1,000 people, then you get into T numbers and what a whole bunch of statistical information and stuff, and that's sort of a different topic. But the point is that you need to go out there when you're doing your quantitative studies with clearly defined shapes to test. And a lot of people will start with a quantitative study, which assumes a set of shapes that they're trying to test. And so they are going out without a nuanced enough understanding of what their buyers actually care about. So how important was sales to your decision? Well, that's not really a great question. I mean, it might be an okay supplementary question, but really I want to get into the real stories of about 20 people and then take that to a larger population to test. So that's the conceptual version of my answer to the question, how many people should we speak to in a win-loss study? I'm going to share a PowerPoint now that just will give a couple of resources, and we can also provide these on the video for download as well. Here we go. Here is the slide that we'll provide later called Choosing the Size of the Study. And so the term in qualitative research for this is saturation. And when you've reached saturation in qualitative research, it means that talking to more people does not yield more themes. And so when you have spoken to enough people, you're just going to confirm or get more or less evidence for the themes that you've already discovered within a population. So the question is, how many people do you need to speak to in order to reach saturation? And there are varying opinions on this. Glasser and Strauss is the original paper on this, 1967, and it talks about 30. You can see that Morse talks about way less, at least 6 conversations in the 94 paper for phenomenology. The difference between grounded theory and phenomenology is beyond the scope of this video. We'll talk about that later. And you can see that Morse and Cresswell don't always agree. They say different things for different things, situations. But I think, and so you can see there's somebody thinks 30, the Glaser study, 26 for phenomenology and Morse, but Morse for grounded theory will go 30 to 50 conversations. Cresswell says 20 to 30 for grounded theory, but 25 for phenomenology. So you can see even the experts don't always agree. And so I think the patent paper statement is probably the most valuable, which is that the number of conversations you have is best determined by the time allotted and the resource available and the study objectives. And so it can help to have some advice on that, and that's something that we can provide. So those are the ranges, but again, in our experience doing this over thousands of interviews and dozens of clients, I think we can say almost say hundreds of clients, certainly hundreds of projects and dozens of clients. Our, in the chair experience says that 20 to 30 conversations. 20 is a good budget number. 25 is awesome if you can do that. 30 is like super gold plated and not necessary. If you want to do anything more than 20 conversations or 25, I suggest a quantitative survey. And we can talk about that some other time. Okay? Take care. Do you want to say goodbye, James?
Yeah, I'll probably cut this video.
Okay.